Elis, I've got a surprise for you.
Oh, can I guess?
Yeah?
Are you going to make me join Bebo?
No.
Google Plus?
No. Elis, we've got a brand new feature on our hands.
Have we?
Yes.
It's such a content generator.
It's a surprise feature for Elis. I'll give you a little bit of background before we head into it, but I think you're going to enjoy it.
Okay. Is it going to make me look bad?
No. Quite the opposite. It's going to make me look like the worst person in the history of the universe.
Oh.
So
okay,
I was...
Not that you are.
Because I've had a few days off for the first time, I was around the house and I decided to tackle my study. Okay, it's not really a study.
It's got a beer fridge in it.
It's got a beer fridge in and a dehumidifier. But it's also got lots of sort of paperwork and old receipts and that sort of thing. I mean, I can access them all, but it's just not usable as a study. So anyway, I made my way through it, getting some boxes out. I was looking through a box, Elis, and I found lots of my old notebooks from comedy.
Oh.
Okay, so like old...
Is this John's Gig Diaries?
Yes. So I found an old notebook, right?
Yes, please.
And I opened it up, and I had totally forgotten.
Please.
So years ago, we did a feature on the show called Ellis James's Gig Diaries.
Yeah.
And I would often bemoan the fact that there was no record of the experiences I was having at exactly the same time.
Yes, please.
So I opened up this notebook, and I saw the first page, the 21st of March, 2005.
Okay.
So I have got...
Which I think is the first time we met.
We would have met probably a month before that.
Okay.
However, I have a diary which...
does this make me look bad?
No. Unfortunately, I'm not sure you get a mention.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I can really handle that anonymity.
So it covers my quitting alcohol.
Yeah.
And starting to gig in the open mic circuit between March and October 2005.
Two things. You were the first young person I'd ever met who didn't drink.
Yeah.
Who had drunk. You know, there is always some people who are like, it's just not my thing. And also, listeners, obviously I was privy to your early forays into the stand-up world. I love Dark Robins, the dark Harry Potter stuff.
Well, let's not go into that. What sort of man do you think these diaries paint me to be?
Oh, sort of Samuel Pepys, but down.
Now, I'm going on one condition.
You were down.
I'm going to read them. So I've probably got about 20 or 30 entries.
Shiver me timbers, have you?
Yeah.
I can't. Oh my God, 30 weeks of great hashtag content.
But I'm going to read them broadly unedited. But I have to say...
Hold me, Joe.
I was not a laugh.
No. I was scared of you for the first 6 years.
Well, we're going to understand why.
I was scared of you until 2011.
So, ladies and gentlemen, and bear in mind, I'm a nice person now.
Yeah. Brand Robbins has completely changed.
There's an entry in a book, an Alcoholics Anonymous book, which one of the symptoms of drinking is grandiose thoughts. So it's time for the first ever edition of
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is mine, poured out on paper.
John's Gig Diary. Please bear in mind I had recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. 21st of March 2005. It's now 41 days and nights since I last drank. Maybe only 4 of those I've been at my wit's end for drink. A number which I find surprisingly low. I begin to take a diary to shore up against the winter of my future.
Oh, shut up.
I am increasingly worried for my...
in a bookshop. It's not nuclear Armageddon.
I am increasingly worried for my future. The desire for fame as ever meets with laziness, and I find myself trapped in total listless drudgery.
Living in your mum's house. It was fine.
No, I wasn't. I was living with Robin.
Oh, yeah. It was great.
Have started doing stand-up sets at a local pub called The Hatchet. Someone should really bury it. Get this. The standard of everyone I've seen to date has been pitiful.
Well, that does include...
My first gig, poorly prepared and poorly performed, eclipsed those who have spent years wasting their time doing something which the average person on the street would show them up at.
Oh my goodness me.
Though I fear nothing will come of it. I can make people laugh, and that is all I can do. If bitterness at imagined injustice doesn't consume me, I will dedicate my life to it. But I know I will be consumed by bitterness.
And you weren't far off. Oh my gosh. Joel Dommett wasn't famous by this point.
I have realised my third age began in 1999
What's that mean?
I don't know.
Third age 1999? What are you, 17?
We'll hear the whole sentence. I have realised my third age began in 1999 when I first gambled. That was when joy first departed. Dad says I'm worth more than minimum wage, though obviously not worth more than 2 phone calls and £100 a year. Bleak section about my father redacted. The thought of working in a regular job makes me feel sick.
Yes.
And I will not fall into one. I can't just drift into my 30s, dreamed extinguished by routine. At the very least, I have time on my side.
March 2005. What are you, 23?
Yeah, 23. My back is bad again.
Oh, yeah.
Just watched a documentary about goodness gracious me. It's the least funny thing I've ever come across. It makes me fume like an old worn out comic cursing youth.
Oh.
Gig went well yesterday.
Can I just say, I would recommend to everyone who is able to write, everyone over the age of 5 or 6, keep a diary.
Don't.
With the passage
I would
of
say
time,
the exact
they are
opposite.
the funniest things.
Gig went well yesterday. First time I've been proud of myself since I quit drinking. Russell Howard was there and he was very good. He's got his stand-up persona down to a T. I never want to be like him.
You told Russell that.
I want to be different somehow.
Yeah.
I don't want to be successful in a well-established form.
Preach.
Peter Cook, yes. Billy Connolly, no.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I could write a play. That's where it ends.
It reminds me of that, one of the first entries I read out from Elis's Gig Diaries when we did it on the show a couple of years ago was me bemoaning the fact that I'd had a tough gig in Bournemouth or something. And the final line was, I can't believe I'm 25 and I haven't even read Waiting for Godot. Just as a lovely little aside. Where have my asides gone?
Maybe I could write a play.
Yeah.
Or maybe you couldn't because you can't. You're not a playwright, you absolute idiot.
Hey, I still think you've got it in you, John.
This diary just goes to show I was the worst person who has ever existed in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Elis James and John Robbins. Radio X.
I love doing this show. It's the highlight of my week. However, the fact we have a new feature, John Robbins' Gig Diaries, means that next week I'm going to run to work because I'm on tenterhooks. It can't come quickly enough.
I knew when I found it I would have to bring it in, but I have to say I'm so ashamed of who I was that reading that actually gave me a headache. I've got a headache now.
It is hard going through them because you don't think that you've changed.
But also, so this was 21st of March 2005.
13 years ago.
Already claiming that I've eclipsed every other comedian I've ever seen. I'd done 3 gigs.
I know.
3. Can you imagine that?
You're a funny fish.
I was chatting to Robin about it because I was living with him at the time and he gets quite a lot of mentions. There's one, I won't spoil it, that'll be in weeks to come, but just how pompous and grandiose is the word, I think. I just want to say to that man, chill out.
Chill out, everyone.
Chill out.
If the entire world could chill out by just 10%.
Well, and that guy by 60.
Yeah.
Because you want a bit of get up and go. You want a bit of light and shade.
Absolutely.
But you don't want constant shade.
Oh, I tell you one thing though, I am excited about next week.
I'm excited about compiling them. I'm going to do them chronologically.
Yeah, I have a feeling that this is the best.
I'm hot. My face is hot.
Ever. Hey, you don't feel hot because of 13-year-old shame?
Oh, why wouldn't you?
Because you've done well since then. And
no, but it's not about that. It's about how hard I was to like and how
that's true.
Full of myself.
But I stuck with you, though.
You did.
I stuck at it, because liking you ain't easy, man.
I know. Tell me about it.
But you were a project.
I was an ongoing project.
Project Robbins.
Project Robbins.
And by 2011, I can broadly say that I was happy to have completed it. Anyway, there'll be more insight into Project Robbins next week at around the same time. I can't wait. Humble Bragg's up next, alongside music from The Strokes, Queen and Snow Patrol.
Queen?
Yeah. Well, Queen and David Bowie.
Fine.
Which is fine. You're
they
happy
get first billing.
Radio
X.
Elis James and John Robbins.
You're listening to Elis James and John Robbins on Radio X, but it's time for a quick email. John, what have you got?
Well, coming up, we have the second instalment of John's Gig Diaries, a new feature that I'm rapidly losing confidence in. Because last week, on its debut, it caused me to have what I now believe to have been a shame migraine. We had an email from James. He says, I'm just finishing the latest podcast, and I wanted to say that John's shame-induced illness sounded a lot like a migraine. I suffer from these myself, and the first time it happened was horrible, just due to me not knowing what was going on. Symptoms include disassociation, which is exactly what I had, flashing lights, exactly what I had, extreme light sensitivity, again, acute blindness, didn't have that, and a general feeling of unease, also utter confusion.
It just sounds like your life.
Although unusual for migraines to start at your age, John, it's not unheard of. These symptoms are related to epilepsy, but since you do not suffer a seizure, and as far as I know, have never suffered from a seizure, it's less likely to be this. I've never had a seizure. Migraines affect the sufferer for about a day before and after the attack, normally in the form of mood swings, lack of attention, and confused irritability.
Classic Robbins.
He says triggers for migraines are always stress-related, either before, during, or after a stressful event, like reading out your diary on the radio. So maybe last week I was so ashamed of myself that my brain tried to dissolve.
Oh, God.
And I'm doing the diaries chronologically, so I'm not buffing them up to look good. So this
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's obvious.
Anyway, we'll get on to this week.
The winter of your future, John.
Sure up against the winter of my future. Anyway, if you missed John's Gig Diaries making its debut last week and the shame migraine, then do download the podcast.
Elis James and John Robbins.
Radio X.
You're listening to Elis James and John Robbins on Radio X. And if there's a sense of anticipation in my voice, it's because I'm about to announce my favourite feature of all time. It's only the second week, but I can already practically taste how good it's going to be.
Don't big it up too much.
All right then.
It's a for completists only week.
Okay. Well, last week's was great, but John heroically is going to do it chronologically, and so. This is the reality. Next week's apparently is going to be great, but as a John Robbins completist and apologist, I'm very excited to announce it's time for John's Gig Diaries.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is my order on paper.
John's Gig Diary. Please bear in mind I'd recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. 22nd of March 2005. Work. I'm getting attached to this job in London before I've even applied for it. A dangerous habit. I expect nothing. Alistair is having a meeting about the book he's writing. Lucky coin.
Who's Alistair?
A guy I used to work with.
Okay. At Borders?
Yeah.
Bookshop now defunct?
Yeah, who hilariously once applied for a job as commissioning editor of Children's BBC. Once working part-time in a bookshop. Anyway, had ambition, wrote a book.
Yeah, fair play to him.
Nothing a cup of tea and Sherlock Holmes won't cure, though. For an hour. Then back to the heavy engine of work.
All right, Brunel.
23rd of March 2005. Now, this entry starts with two literary quotes. Mediocrity knows nothing above itself, but talent instantly recognises genius. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Pour away that youth that overflows the heart.
What, are you 23?
Into hair and mouth.
Oh, God.
Take the grave's part. Tell the bones truth. Philip Larkin. I don't like the cadence of the last two lines of that poem. They sound like a bad rap. But I think he's talking about that stage in life when your unconscious youthful joy departs, and as soon as you become aware of... and as soon as you
ever have that?
And as soon as you become aware of what it is to be young, you start to become old. Therefore, holding on to the youth that, quote, overflows the heart, you must then look to death for release from morning youth. I was just about to turn 24, actually.
Yeah,
so
serious guy.
24th of March, 2005. I emailed Matt to introduce the idea of me leaving work to pursue a career in stand-up. I'm depressed by Bristol.
Very brave. I mean, you'd only done about 9 gigs. What were you going to do for money?
I don't know. We'll chat about this after I've finished. I'm depressed by Bristol and my sudden decline into social nothingness. I'm inevitably slipping towards London. I think I will lose myself in it, and I have no idea if I'll come out on the other side. It's kind of a slightly mixed metaphor there. I'm quitting smoking again on Wednesday. Work blows. Robin is not home yet. Despair. That's the end of that.
Very serious young man.
Very hard on myself.
Yeah.
Chill out, mate. You stop drinking, doing
God, where's that light-hearted John Robbins gone who never existed?
Imagine, all thinking that I was morning youth at 23.
Yeah.
I was 23. 23.
Just graduated.
It was almost half my age.
What are you now, 36, 37, 38?
36.
Are you 36?
Yes. Half of that was half of 36, 18. It's about the same age. Idiot. What an idiot.
I liked him, though. I liked that idiot. Bit scared of him. And he was more serious.
I'm quite scared of him now.
More serious than my other friends.
But he was still a laugh. I didn't laugh. I didn't make people laugh.
No, you didn't. You didn't laugh at anyone else's jokes. You would just sit and ponder, and then occasionally a barbed comment would come out.
Oh, God.
And then you'd sit there in that suit jacket that had stains at the sleeves.
Yeah, smoking fags like a legend.
Yeah.
Maybe I was right.
Pre-smoking ban.
Well, maybe I should have been. Maybe I was cool. Maybe I'm not. God.
Who knows?
Get another shame migraine.
Don't get a shame migraine. It's a good feature, and I'm backing you. Do you know what you need?
What?
A charity single. Should get a lot of bands together.
What charity and what's the song?
Well, the charities of Pep Up Robbins.
Yeah.
We should wonder if we could persuade the Maccabees to reform, to write a charity single. They listen to the show. Alt J listens to the show.
Yeah.
George Ezra listens to the show.
Alt J, the Maccabees, and George Ezra in a fundraising song for my remortgage. And the song's called Interest Only. Nightmare trying to get interest only these days. They can basically ask you to provide them with any information they need and then decline.
Move over, Samuel Pepys. It's time for my favourite feature of all times. Because like all incredibly compelling, talented artists, John kept a self-flagellating diary, and it's now time for the latest entry in John's Gig Diaries.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is mine, poured out on paper.
John's Gig Diary. Please bear in mind I had recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. 25th of March 2005. I see how this world goes without the case of eyes.
What's that mean?
That's a quote from King Lear, but it's actually a misquote.
Okay, great.
Had a great time with Sam. He came to visit yesterday and he is joy distilled.
Hang on. You start your own diary with a quote from King Lear.
Why wouldn't you, mate?
Oh, dear.
I was in a very bad mood.
So?
Went on a bar tour with Rob and came the closest yet to drinking. I really craved the abandon of devouring drink.
The abandon.
In order to stop myself, I focused on the fact that this was not the thinking of someone who had a healthy attitude to alcohol. Went to the dojo lounge and came up against the whole disgusting charade of clubbing. I no longer want to see human beings in that light. 90% of people have seemingly no interior monologue to constantly judge and deconstruct what is actually going on. Actually is underlined 4 times. Conscience is a curse and reveals the hypocrisy of our age.
Oh my God.
The sheer idiocy of our social habits. That said, I probably wouldn't be writing this if I'd pulled. Rob was very good at not letting me drink, and I think the wrath is subsiding now. There's no drink. Despair takes its place. Here's a plan. Between 23 and 30, I have to try really hard to become a comedian. If at 30 I can't live comfortably from it, I'll do an MA in Larkin or Shakespeare. It's a deal. Speaking of Larkin, I reread Sonny Prestatyn today. I think it's about the decay of an ideal that was foolish to create. Everything eventually turns into reality.
What, Prestatyn?
Yeah. Sooner or later, all becomes cancer.
Oh.
Joke ideas. A conversation between two disciples. Disciple 1. Oh no, God's wrath is upon us. The sky is black as sackcloth. Disciple 2. I don't know, it's past 9. Disciple 1. No, it's God's wrath. Disciple 2, checking his watch. It's probably just night.
Oh.
Potential stand-up routine about the descent into hell, and then the coach ride back with all the patriarchs.
Oh.
Maybe merge into spiel about buses. i.e., getting the seat so close to the TV, you have to watch the flashing dots on the digital clock, ? Funny name idea, Paul Rugby Club. That's the end there. I was quite obsessed with the descent into hell of the patriarchs, where they open the doors of hell and let all the Old Testament
Screams comedy.
guys out.
The encouraging thing, if there are any comedians or budding comedians out there listening, you did become funny. You've done it. You're a funny guy.
I was going through a period where all my joke ideas were Bible-based. I'm not quite sure why.
I remember this.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, for maybe new listeners to the show who might not realise, what was that, March 2005?
Yeah.
I had met John by that point, because I think I met John, it was my second gig and his third, or the other way around. I can't quite remember the chronology of it. But your early stuff was biblical and dark and heavy.
Well, I mean...
Heavy.
Yeah, heavy is the word. I mean, imagine assuming that 90% of people don't have an interior monologue. How self-aggrandizing is that? But I guess to an extent, when we're in our teens and 20s, we sort of all feel we're the only people who think about anything, and that everyone else is just a blooming sheep.
Sheeple.
I see how this world goes without the case of eyes. That's a quote, well, a misquote of Gloucester, who's just had his eyes removed.
Yeah, I mean... Nightclubs make me think of Shakespeare sometimes.
But I think also the thing is that... what was I going to say? That clubbing when you are sober is like hell.
Yes.
You feel like you're in hell. In my slight defence.
Still, it's Saturday night. You're listening to Radio X. This is I Can't Stand It by Blossom.
Elis James and John Robbins.
Now it's time for my favourite feature in the history of radio. It's time for John's Gig Diaries.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is my order on paper.
John's Gig Diary. Please bear in mind I had recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. Haven't had a gig diary for a couple of weeks, guys. Have to say, transcribing this was quite a sweaty experience for me, and just do bear in mind the caveats there that I was in a pretty odd place.
Sweaty, but nothing to do with the unseasonal early hot weather.
No. These are diaries I kept when I started stand-up, which I discovered quite recently. 26th of March 2005. If I were to begin a religion, it would be based on purity. Only beautiful things would be allowed within its confines. Music, art, food, literature, flowers, trees, animals, and thought would all be allowed.
Where's football?
Alcohol, violence, pornography, lust, the media, graffiti, and disrespect would all be banned.
Lust and the media. You're on the media. This is the media, you mean.
Oh, it sounds like if Alan Partridge had become radicalised. Oh my God. What is society coming to when a man of sound mind believes the only solution to the intense futility of human existence is to put out his own eyes? That's how I felt returning from a club this evening. Ooh. Being sober in a nightclub is like walking through Dante's hell. Oh. You see everything so clearly, the depravity, the insanity. Walking out, I saw this really sweet girl. She caught my eye for a split second. It just looked like she was drowning in idiots. My respect for city centre police could not be higher. On nights like these, integrity is all I have. It is my only gift. My downfall amongst these beasts.
My downfall. Beasts. Just people from Bristol.
Joke idea. Now, read between the lines in this. Joke idea. Bristolian man intends to put a bomb in the Mall but gets confused and accidentally puts it in the galleries. Those are two different shopping centres in Bristol.
Oh, God. Were you ever funny? Are you funny?
How would you make that funny?
Also, what a gear change.
Oh, mate.
So where are you from? What do you do for a living? Welcome to stage, John Robbins. Hello. I've been radicalised. I went to a nightclub and it's like hell.
27th of March 2005. This is the next day. Did the Hatchet with Mark Olver and Epileptic Dan, and it was fantastic. An audience of about 40 people who wanted to see comedy and wanted to laugh. Dan was excellent. He did a routine about the 7 deadly sins and the very hungry caterpillar. It was electric.
Yeah, I remember that.
For the first time, I felt like a true comic up there. My material went well, and I was able to banter with ease. A guy in the front row was wearing bowling shoes, and I made him pay, with hilarious results.
You wrote that?
Yeah. I had the usual crippling nerves. I stared at my living room wall for a full hour before leaving the flat. But for the first time, it felt like it wasn't luck. These people were laughing because of me. I did the Norwich Union joke, and one guy on the front row actually threw back his head and howled. Compared to last night, this seems like something of a payoff for wanting to put out my eyes. Came home, watched Father Ted, had bacon and tomatoes. Bliss.
People who want to put out their eyes tend not to unwind by watching Father Ted on video.
28th of March 2005. Lazy day today. Rob was very ill. Went to play pool with Dave and got my cue re-tipped. Watch the best episodes of Futurama I've yet seen. The writing is at times flawless and creates a voice of its own, quite distinct even from The Simpsons. I think Matt Groening should be in anyone's top 10 comedians. I cleaned the flat whilst Rob rested. I'm going to read Sherlock Holmes for an hour and then listen to Sherlock Holmes for another hour. There you go. Quite an intense place, my head, in March 2005.
You know, I thought you were intense now. And then I remember, that's the John I met. That's the John I was scared of.
Yes.
You were scary.
I think it's the John that was scared of himself.
Yeah. Epileptic Dan was a comedian. We started at the same time as Epileptic Dan.
Yes, and also,
you remember that.
Should point out he did refer to himself by that moniker.
Yes.
He had epilepsy.
He had a lot of material about his.
Dan Mitchell, comedian Dan Mitchell. But yeah, I remember seeing his Hungry Caterpillar routine and being blown away.
My sister's still talking about it.
Yeah.
She saw it when she was came down to visit me in Cardiff and was like, this Hungry Caterpillar guy is incredible. So yeah, it's nice to hear the names from the past. It's sort of it's a nice diversion from the intensity.
Oh man. Anyway, all fine now.
Elis James and John Robbins.
Radio X.
Now it's time for John's Gig Diaries.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is my report out on paper.
John's Gig Diary. Please bear in mind I had recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. 29th of March 2005. Gave up drinking again today. It's 11 hours. No, sorry. Gave up smoking again today. It's 11 hours since my last fag, and it seems okay as long as I pretend the craving isn't anything to do with fags. Seeing it as an odd, abstract sensation makes it easier to deal with. I still have fantasies of total self-destruction, though. If I ever drink again, it could be nasty. I told Robin we'd ran out of bread, so he went to Summerfield but came back with 8 cans of Strongbow and no bread. Would have been annoying if it wasn't so funny. Watched Anchorman and nearly soiled myself laughing, though I had eaten 14 ounces of mince and half a cheesecake. Man, I want a girlfriend.
Oh.
1st of April 2005.
How much cheesecake?
Half a cheesecake.
What? Oh, good grief. How much mint? What? Why all the mince? What, a bolognese or a chili or something?
Who knows? He's just into mince.
You were into mince. I remember the mince scene when you were into that.
Yeah, do you remember when I was defrosting mince in real time?
Watching it in real time.
1st of April 2005. Dawn to dusk without a fag for the first time in maybe 6 years. It was fine all day until I went to the Ram. Really struggled to not smoke. First I felt like crying, then I felt like throwing up. It got so bad I wanted to drink and smoke, so I just sat with a feeling and sat and fantasised about smoking and sat and fantasised about being Sherlock Holmes and then walked home. It lasted for maybe 2 hours, but then the feeling of unease changed to one of elation. By morning, I hope it'll be much better. It's been 36 hours now.
God, you haven't changed. And you're not a character act. Always amazes me, that.
2nd of April 2005. I bought a Sudoku book to ease the boredom. Not smoking was fine until I went to the
You're
pub.
not in prison. It sounds like you're in solitary confinement or
my
something.
mind's prison.
What, you're like Steve McQueen in The Great Escape, throwing a baseball against the wall.
Less iconic though, just doing Sudokus.
Yeah, in Bristol, in your house.
Not smoking was fine until I went to the pub. I decided I would smoke as soon as Alistair left, but he asked if he could borrow a video, so I came back here and we played Scrabble. I won 463 points to 240.
I can't believe you actually put the score in your diary, you lame loser.
Well, wait till you see what else I put in my diary. AEGIRS blank is a much easier rack than I make it out to be. Why do I always struggle with it? Yes, a lot of the words it forms are unusual, but memorise the everyday ones. Angries, earrings, earwigs, erasing, gassier, imagers, mirages, regains, searing, triages.
Every day.
No drink for 55 days, no fags for 60 hours. If the gig goes well tomorrow, then I'm allowed to go shopping for clothes or a computer game. You've got to give yourself little treats.
I didn't know you were 11 in 2005, trying to give out booze and fags. Age of 10, a computer game from Woolworths.
Oh, dear.
Good grief. Also, what excites me about this feature is that we're still only into April 2005, so you've only been doing gigs for 3 months or so.
Month and a half.
Month and a half. So, I mean,
I've probably done 10 gigs.
There's so much more to come from this feature. I can feel it.
Well, I've read ahead and some of them have to be edited somewhat.
Great. As a treat, because I know you, could I see or read the unedited versions?
Yeah, I just take out anything libelous or slanderous.
Great. There'll be another John's Gig Diary next week.
Elis James and John Robbins.
So now it's time for my favourite feature in the world of radio. It's time for John's Gig Diaries.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is mine, poured out on paper.
John's Gig Diary. Please bear in mind I had recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. 3rd of April 2005. Did the Yellow Kangaroo in Cardiff.
Oh, yes.
It was the worst it's gone yet.
Yes.
I realised I need to see a lot more stand-up so I can read audiences better. I need to be able to think while I'm on stage as opposed to just remembering harder. The guy before me struggled too, and because he had a similar delivery to me, the audience weren't prepared to go along with a second helping, having disliked their first. I also think I was complacent after last week's success at the Hatchet. I gave Gaz Mackin a lift, and it was nice to chat to him. I think it would be good if we were both at the forefront of a new wave of Bristol comedian. I need another 30 gigs before I start making my moves.
What's that mean?
I don't know. To become a new wave.
Yeah.
You can't just become the new wave of Bristol comedian like that. You have to plan
true.
it.
You need to be a strategist.
Exactly, Elis. Tonight showed comedy doesn't just click and stay good forever. You've got to be one step ahead of yourself, or you bomb.
Oh.
I'm not sure how it's possible to be one step ahead of yourself.
No, snooker players, think a couple of shots ahead, but it's very difficult to think ahead of your own mind.
Thoughts. That said, Matt Price, who ran the gig, was lovely and invited me for a roast dinner.
Oh.
Started smoking again.
Oh.
I'm disappointed with myself, but I spoke to Mum as it was getting ridiculous and I was close to drinking. She agreed it was the lesser of two evils, so I went and bought 20 fags. 4th of April 2005, 4 p.m. Pretty much a wasted day. I did farts that smelled of digestive biscuits, later of death.
Good grief.
Sat down and wrote a Woody Allen-style monologue about getting colonic irrigation with my iPod on shuffle.
I would love to read that. I'd pay you £1,000.
Well, I found it.
Great. Well, okay. Oh, God, I've committed to myself.
It only took 10 minutes. Doing that every day would be a great routine. Just find a good opening line and then carry on writing for a page. At the end of the week, cull the best bits. I need to get my comedy brain in training. Watch The Silence of the Lambs again. I think I might become a criminal psychologist or a serial killer.
Very ambitious. You're going to become part of the new wave of Bristol comedians. And then you're also going to become a criminal psychologist.
Or a serial killer.
Or a serial killer. Don't do that.
10:30 p.m. Despair. I went for a walk around Cottam. I saw a girl through the window of the White Bear pub who was so beautiful it made me want to burst into flames.
I wonder what she's doing now.
Wonder what she's doing now. Probably happy.
Yeah.
Or reading out excerpts from her diary about when she saw a guy walk past the White Bear.
Who was trying to burst into flames.
Oh, come on.
It was hard to make out what the guy was doing. He was smoking lots of fags, and it seemed like he was trying to burst into flames.
Come on.
Oh.
Enter me, fire!
Tell you one thing. What an opening gambit for that beautiful girl.
Hi.
Hi.
I saw you through the window. What's that smell? Yes, I'm on fire.
Oh, funny, isn't it? For listeners to this show who've maybe listened over the last 4 years, it would be difficult to imagine that you could get more intense. But this is you at your most laid back. Anyway, I love John's Gig Diaries. Thankfully, we're only up to April 2005, which I find a mouth-watering prospect. So there'll be more to come next week.
Elis James and John Robbins.
Radio X.
It's now time for a further instalment of John's Gig Diaries.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is mine, poured out on paper.
John's Gig Diary. Please bear in mind I had recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. 5th of April 2005. I made bolognese and watched Liverpool Juventus. 2 fantastic goals and 1 poor one made 2-1 a disappointing result. Also, I ate too many M&Ms. Gaz Mackin invited me to a stand-up competition in Torquay. What a lovely chap. Should be fun. Watch the documentary When Worlds Collide. F me, it was awesome. Interesting thought. If mankind were to land on a new planet identical to Earth, how would we cope with not even a hammer? How long would it take until we made, say, the first computer?
Interesting thought.
The combustion engine or the speed camera? Would we have to begin as Neanderthals, moving from flint to furnace to forge as rapidly as possible?
Shut up.
Or could we skip steps, playing out an industrial revolution in fast forward? There must be stand-up in this.
Were you bored?
Footnote, there was not stand-up in that.
You didn't try it, did you?
I have no record of whether I did stand-up about our move from flint to furnace to forge.
Because I did a lot of Crimean War stuff in the early days.
7th of April 2005. Work was full on at Borders. Bumped into Gaz in graphic novels. Had a chat about comedy competitions. I might do the last laugh with him. When I got home, I wrote a stand-up routine about the premise that God is a failed stand-up. Mankind his unsuccessful material. Could work with some tweaks.
I don't remember that. Do you remember that stuff?
Yeah. I think I've got it written down somewhere.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
8th of April 2005. Really wanted a drink this evening. I'm very depressed and at a loss with the world.
Yeah, well, you were such a serious young man, weren't you? So, April 05, just before your 23rd birthday?
9th of April 2005. Moaned at Mum about the void left by drink and felt a bit better. Went to Sam's party and got turned down by a pretty girl. Despair. There you go, what a fun guy. What a fun insight into a fun guy.
Why did I apologise for you?
I don't know, you shouldn't have done.
I was loyal, though.
You were loyal.
I was and still am so loyal.
I mean, I'm not. I don't think I'm being particularly mean to anyone, apart from maybe myself.
No, it's just that
It's a terrifying mind to live in.
you just were a serious young man as a 22-year-old.
Still, Liverpool went to win the Champions League, so
Yes, that's true. That's true.
some good came out of it.
Elis James and John Robbins.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is mine. mine poured out on paper.
John's Gig Diary. Please bear in mind I had recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up.
So, John, where are we in the diary so far?
We're up to the 10th of April 2005.
Okay.
I've just been invited to do a new act competition at the Last Laugh in Sheffield.
Fingers crossed for you.
And I'm trying out a routine about God, as if God was a stand-up comedian.
And how old are you tackling the weighty subject of God?
I'm 20, just about to turn 23.
Okay, all right. So you've decided to take on God.
Yeah.
In a competition.
Absolutely, I have. 10th of April 2005. It's hard not to just collapse and weep on these long Sundays of the soul, as Robin calls them. I get so depressed before doing gigs. Then there follows a quote from a Bonnie Prince Billy song.
Great.
I sing evil, I sing good. I sing as the seagull should. If I melted, then I would melt myself all into you. Gig routine about God as a stand-up bombed, but I was still happy as I tried out a slightly different persona. I'd say it was 12% more confident. Ooh. Even though I had nothing to be confident about. Mark Olver said that sometimes you may have written 21-minute things as opposed to one 20-minute thing. Very interesting.
It's a wise man, is Mark Olver. Very wise man.
Bombing aside, I learned a lot. Then I watched Hannah and Her Sisters with Robin. It's brilliant.
So can you talk us through very quickly the routine? So it was God's a stand-up.
Mankind are his material,
right?
That have not gone down well.
It's a bit like if God is a DJ,
yeah,
that sort of thing. But okay, so mankind is his failed material.
Yeah,
but surely, the fact that the material failed, it couldn't succeed, could it? It had to fail in order to make the points.
I seem to remember that Revelation, the book of Revelation, became his sort of rewrite, his change of persona.
Okay. A slightly more confident persona in Revelations by killing everybody.
12% more confident. 11th of April 2005. Try to sort out TeleWest refund, but to no avail. Honestly, the unnecessary bureaucracy in broadband providers is mind-boggling. Applied for the BBC job, which took effing ages. That's probably a waste of time too. I gave Hannah and Ben my last bottle of whiskey. A surprisingly weird feeling, even though it's 62 days since my last drink. It was a real wrench. God, I want a drink. That's quite depressing.
That is quite sad, actually. Yeah. That's quite a sad bit of what's already quite a sad diary.
Well, it doesn't get much less bleak. 12th of April 2005. I was desperate for a drink this afternoon. I drove to the Mall just to get me out of the house and away from the call of the pub. All I could do was stall myself like a detective who stalls a suspect while his partner searches the suspect's house for clues.
Can you read that again?
Yeah, it got quite Rebus McTaggart there, didn't it?
All I could do was stall myself like a detective stalling a suspect while his partner searches the suspect's house for clues.
So who's the partner in this case? You as well?
No, the partner is me not drinking.
Right.
So the clue is no alcohol.
Right. Okay.
The partner is me not drinking. The suspect is booze, and I am me.
Right. Well, it's nice to have some company, isn't it, when you're on your own not drinking?
Sitting on this craving is becoming a habit, though, which I think is good. I watched Seven again. It's awesome. Must write that Last Laugh routine tomorrow. And that's the end of this week's entries.
Is there's no bit where you go to Chessington World of Adventures, is there? Or something that's a little bit jolly day for the...
No, not really. It's all quite
bleak?
Yeah, but what's the word for sort of emotionally pompous?
It's quite navel-gazing, isn't it? It's quite...
But what sort of like, you're navel gazing, but while you're gazing, you're just seeing like the end of the world in the sky. Grandiose.
It is quite, yes, it's very grandiose.
Emotionally grandiose, which I remained until 2012.
I remember that year. Hell of a year.
It's a hell of a year. Social grandiosity.
You know what happened? He went to Chestnut World of Adventures. Just unlocked. He went to Mr. Burp's Bubble Works and it unlocked everything for him.
Yeah, I turned the frown upside down and whacked a smile on that dial. Okay, guys, another gig diary next week.
Well,
anyway, do you want to introduce the feature?
Yes, I do. It's time for my favourite feature. It's time for your favourite feature. It's time for John's Gig Diaries.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is mine poured out on paper.
John's Gig Diary. Please bear in mind I had recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. Okay, so we pick up the story, 13th of April 2005, a blank page.
Oh, it's still very early in your stand-up career.
14th of April 2005. I drank yesterday and never again. I think I need to stop having epiphanies and start making wholesale changes life-wise.
Yes.
As far as I can see it, I have 4 options. 1. Escape life, brackets, teaching English as a foreign language. 2. Ignore life, brackets, borders. 3. Be consumed by life, brackets, alcohol. 4. Attempt to change lives, brackets, therapy.
Oh, as a therapist,
I
you
think
mean?
so.
Yeah. Well, that was one of your options until quite late.
I don't know what part comedy plays, but I haven't yet decided if it really scratches my human itch. I think I'll give it 15 gigs and then make a decision.
Oh.
For now, I know the following to be true. 1. I'm not talented enough to write creatively.
Hey.
Brackets, fiction/drama. 2. I'm not prepared to do something for a living which simply pays the bills.
Of course.
3.
Were you 23 when you wrote this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3.
Not ready for a 9 to 5, actually.
I will not opt out of life through addiction. Love costs. I won't allow myself to wallow in resignation. 4. I have talent in comedy and some minor competitive pastimes, brackets, pool, Scrabble and darts. 5. I have a desire for fame which may mask a deeper need for attention and acceptance.
Yeah.
6.
And yet you're quite happy to only have 8 friends.
6. I have the time to choose within reason whatever path I want to take. 7. You have to either cheat or be a coin to think that you're going to enjoy life. Anyone who thinks life's great isn't paying attention.
Oh, very Bill Hicksian. Very
9.
Brendan Burnsian.
9. You need a girlfriend.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the end of that day. Next entry, 15th of April 2005. I'm going to learn the piano. That's what it says.
I didn't realise, I was gigging with you a lot at this time. I didn't realise those gigs had so much riding on them.
Oh, so a huge amount mentally, mate.
15 gigs to rescue your life. Unless you were going to do a TEFL course.
16th of April 2005. Work was okay. Gaz was in graphic novels and persuaded me to go to Cardiff for the gig tomorrow. I feel good about it now. I'm going to work on the quarry routine and add a few new jokes. I came home with a Teach Yourself piano book and I hope to do a little bit each day. There you go.
For how long did you stick with the piano?
That day.
Oh.
I did write a joke about it. Because I used to do that joke at the Yellow Kangaroo, you may even have seen it, where I say, I'm learning to play the piano. I've got this piano book. First instruction is sit down. Second instruction is close your eyes. And that's as far as I've got.
Lovely stuff.
My mum caught me practicing the piano and she said, it doesn't look like a piano. And I said, I'm being Stevie Wonder. It was sort of a bad taste joke about a blind pianist. But it was quite funny that the second instruction was close your eyes.
I mean, yeah.
Then how do you read the rest of the instructions?
That is true. I had to break this to you though. If you'd only stuck at a little bit a day for 13 years, you'd now be the best pianist.
I know. Tell me about it, mate.
Oh, you'd be Andre Previn.
One of my major regs. Wasn't he a violinist? No, he's a pianist.
He's conductor/pianist.
Okay, there you go. Another
wasted life.
Usually takes me a run up of about 3 weeks to be able to stop cringing. So maybe have another one of those in about 2 or 3 weeks' time.
Okay.
I meet a girl in the next section.
Oh.
It's quite remarkable.
Was she the one who read crystals?
No.
Okay,
that's my gig diary. Another one in a few years. And coming up, fingers crossed, at John's gig diary, though I've just picked them up and looking a little bit intense. So we'll see how we get along.
and it is time to hold on to your hats because John has promised a very intense entry from his gig diaries.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is mine, poured out on paper.
John's Gig Diary. Please bear in mind I had recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. Okay, gonna have to edit as we go here. If you remember last week, I had done a gig at the Yellow Kangaroo and had met a pretty girl and got her number.
Okay.
That was on the 17th of April, the 18th of April, and so it begins. And that's all it says.
So the Yellow Kangaroo was a pub that John and I used to do gigs in Roath in Cardiff.
In 2005.
Yeah, right at the start of it. My second gig was at the Yellow Kangaroo, in fact.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the next day. This is 2 days later, 20th of April. Dates are funny old things. They're an awkward compromise between the physical and the emotional, which seem destined to end up in a limbo between the two.
What's a limbo between physical and emotional?
Smell?
Sitting.
Thus,
Smell.
A plus B meet briefly. Both feel a spark. They exchange numbers and agree to meet at a later date. Perhaps because of circumstances or intention, there is nothing physical between them during this first meeting. And yet, they also know nothing about each other. So the later date ends up as an attempt to resolve either of these shortcomings. Perhaps with A trying to make a move in order to release the tension of not knowing B very well, or with A trying desperately to find out about B.
Are you A?
I don't know. So that the relationship is not destined for the physical futility of a one-night stand.
Futility?
Or both. I don't know what that means. Yeah. Such was the scenario today. It may just be that I'm crap at dates, but it all seemed so awkward. She's very attractive, intelligent, interesting, and yet I find myself sat staring at a shop sign, searching for things to say.
Classic Robbins.
Maybe a sign of promise is that you get beyond the awkward stage, regardless of those silences, as it's only awkward because you're both thinking, God, I fancy them.
Have you ever been on a date before?
Don't know. Yeah, probably. As it's only awkward because you're both thinking, God, I fancy them, but end up saying, so is your sister older than you or younger than you? Wow. I thought she had decided during the evening that I wasn't really her type and was all set for despair when she sent another sudden text apologising for being quiet and asking if we could go out again. Strange, but I think because of the way dates are, and not because of either of us. I listened to Possum Day before I got home by Lou Reed and then received the text. It's a real purgation song. Quote, there's a hole in my heart the size of a truck that won't be filled by a one night. Also seemed to be being reminded of practicing patience as I was rushing to Cardiff. Love costs, as Morgan Freeman says in Seven. It's totally true. Maybe that's why one-night stands are so unfulfilling, because there's no investment, no silences in cafes, no attention to detail, no awkwardness. There's the rub. With dates, the awkwardness comes first. With flings, it comes last. Good, I feel a bit better now. Can't read that bit. I really hope things progress a bit further with this girl. She seems normal, which would be an interesting concept. Going out with a normal person.
What are you
I don't know. Though she may be mad as a bucket of swans for all I know. And she does say random a lot. That's a real pet hate. She smells incredible, however. Like being in a Midsummer Night's Dream. Really nice perfume. She knew about Edgar Varese as well. A friend rang while I was watching the snooker and we had a chat.
Why have you written that down?
I said...
Are you 5? That's my daughter's diary would be like.
Hope I get this job at HarperCollins. Bunts. I know. Bunts, phone, car, laptop, working from home. Might be very lonely though. I get to play lots of music in the car though. Night.
What were you doing at HarperCollins?
I don't know. I probably applied for a job at
Like
HarperCollins
a
working from home.
proofreader or something.
Perhaps.
You're sort of endearing though, aren't you?
A bit all over the place.
You are less intense now than you were then. I know I knew this, but reading these or having these diaries read to me just proves that fact. You were a funny fish 13 years ago.
It was the first, I'm just reading ahead slightly, I think the reason why I was a bit nervous and perhaps over-analytical is the first date I'd been on sober. And that is a very different kettle of fish. If you don't have those couple of early pints.
You've got to have 6 cans for a date.
Got to have, and take the other 2 with you.
Yeah.
For her or him. or them, both. I'm sorry. So there you go. It's another just disturbing diary. I'll read ahead next time and make sure they're not too weird. Bye. This is Shame, ironically, L. King.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is mine, poured out on paper.
John's Gig Diary. Please bear in mind I had recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. If that listener who texted in saying we were narcissistic earlier is still listening, you are going to hate this. So I'm going to have to sort of skim read some of these entries because they are a bit much. 22nd of April, managed to miss the snooker twice. So that's fine. For those who weren't listening last week, I've just started going on a date with a girl.
Oh, yeah.
Butterflies all day. Had some good chats with people at work about my date, though. Might go to Old Possums or may even cook a carbonara.
Oh, this is pre-vegan John, obviously.
Yes. 23rd of April. Hope tomorrow goes well. Might go to the Primrose Cafe, wherever that is. Don't know how I'm going to work the gig in as well, but I think the date is the priority. Though I am Lord of the Strings. Don't know what that means. Don't know what that was a joke about. So what? Just to cut a long story short,
Strings to your bow.
I think maybe it is.
Yeah.
It's
quite cryptic, isn't it?
Yeah. I then got a chest infection, which meant that the date didn't go well, and things fizzled out with the girl. So this is an entry.
Put off by your illness?
I think I was really. I sort of was a bit laid low and shouldn't have gone out when I did.
Okay.
Anyway, so this is 3rd of May, the day before my birthday. Just so I basically said things didn't work out because I was ill, and I haven't smoked since 6:40 p.m. on Monday the 25th of April. That's over 8 days. I crave it for maybe 3 times 15-minute periods during the day, often more if I think about smoking. Anyway, I finally find myself in the situation I so long had yearned for, that of unaccommodated man.
What's that mean?
I don't know.
Well, you haven't got a house?
That may be an odd thing to say when I have clothes, shelter, food, and many luxuries. Yet for
That's quite biblical.
Yet for the first time ever, I am not reliant on any substance for my own comfort or desire.
Oh.
No fags, no drink, no coffee, no gambling.
No coffee?
I don't know why I chose to quit coffee as well. An idiot.
I bet that is a Frank Zappa reference.
No,
because you were always
so.
telling me around this time that you loved Frank Zappa because he only liked coffee and fags and he didn't drink alcohol.
However, this has left me with a vague sense of sadness simmering under the surface, and also a feeling of despair about my future. I feel like a lost child in a supermarket, not sure of which aisles will bring him comfort. Why would a child be searching for comfort in the aisles?
Also, if you've lost your parents, all of the aisles are terrifying.
Yes.
As long as if mum and dad aren't there.
I must find a solution to this. I should carry on the Sunday night gigs and try and find a new job for Monday to Friday. I want a career by 26.
Nice. Your writing did improve as well, doesn't it?
Sort
There's a couple
of.
of mixed metaphors in there. I don't really understand.
Well, how's this for a birthday entry? 4th of May. I am so dreadfully lonely, bored, purposeless, grief and anxiety stricken. I feel like I have nothing to do. Literally. I'm having a bath for no reason.
I was scared of you around this time.
I think I was scared of myself.
Well, this brings it all back because you are actually quite a different person. There was a kind of cloak of bleakness to you around the time I met you.
Yes.
Which is now, isn't it? Because this is April 05 and I met you in the January or the February, I think. So I met you a couple of times by this point and you were sort of known as Scary John.
Well, on the 5th of May, the next day, I give a 3-point plan to sort of saving mankind / the human race, which I'm not going to read out. But I do end by saying, I think I'm going through a very odd transition period in my life at the minute. I watched the election results until 3 a.m, then went for a lovely walk. Having given a 3-point plan to save mankind.
You just didn't have enough to do, I think.
Oh,
but I
Lord.
do miss having nothing to do. Like, I would never go for a 3 a.m. walk now because I have to be up. And so oddly, I
was working. I was in employment.
Borders bookshop now defunct.
Yeah, Borders bookshop now defunct. I think things do pick up and I start talking about comedy soon.
Well, you You went full time as a comedy before I did, and there was definitely a long period where you had very little to do, and thinking John really got the better of you.
Yes, because I quit my job and then I started comedy, and I was probably earning about £100 a month, which I have to point out is unsustainable. Anyway, I will find more joy in that slightly troubling diary to read next week.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is mine, poured out on paper.
John's gig diary. Please bear in mind I'd recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. 7th of May 2005. I went to some bars with Rob and Dave and noticed how far removed I feel from young people and their habits.
But you're only 23.
Yes, I was 23 at this point. Dave summed it up perfectly when he said, "You look into a busy bar and it feels like all the people in there know each other." That's what Friday and Saturday nights feel like to me now, like everywhere is one big party I've not been invited to.
Oh.
I feel lost, indistinct, directionless, like my life has unravelled since uni. When I got back, I ate a bowl of chips and a pint of milk. Odd combo. 9th of May. Briefly hunted for jobs on the internet and got depressed. Looked into the Young Bristol website and told myself I was going to drop in. I did, and I ended up becoming a Millennium volunteer.
What's that mean?
All I have to do is work for 200 hours voluntarily and I get a certificate. On Wednesday, I'm going to the Southmead Youth Project to check it out and see if I fancy doing my hours there. I still need to stop smoking. It's difficult because smoking is my silent scream.
Oh my God.
But I need to be stable and pure if I'm to work with young people. It's not just setting an example. It's about proving that my philosophy, yet to be delineated,
My
works.
philosophy. I would never have said that you'd become less pretentious.
One thing on my mind is the comedy, though. I don't know where I stand with it or what part it plays. 11th of May. Southmead Youth Centre scared the living out of me.
Oh dear.
And that was the end of that entry.
Didn't fancy it?
No, terrifying.
That's a shame.
I think I had completely forgotten that I was a Millennium volunteer for 4 hours.
Yeah. Only 196 hours short of the target as
I
well.
know.
That's the sad thing. You're so close to your certificate.
I went to Southmead Youth Project twice, and I was scared of them, and I felt like they were older than me.
Yeah.
They were talking about things I was too sort of shy to talk about. It was just
Bodies.
It was a lot of bodies,
Yeah.
hither and thither, and they're sort of 12 and 13, so that puts you in a very... it's a complex issue, but I just realised that I was not the person to... My skills were not in helping young people.
I volunteered at a youth centre.
Did you?
Yeah, Dr. M's in Carmarthen. Loved it.
How many hours did you do? 4
hours and
4,
loads.
5?
Well, it was an 8-hour shift.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, the people who worked there were absolutely amazing, and what was their philosophy was great, is that you can't sort of revolutionise their lives by sort of, like they do in the films, by sort of sitting down and going, "Hey guys, let's talk about doobies." What you do is just offer them a resource that is safe and doesn't include sort of drugs or booze or anything.
Yes.
But I was obviously also my philosophy hadn't yet been delineated.
Yeah. I think the important thing to remember for any listeners who might be new to John is that it was important that he got his philosophy down first before he revolutionised Bristol's youth.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was so close to... How's the philosophy coming on, by the way?
Good. I'm almost up to the chapter on
Page 1.
Page 1, the chapter on meditations.
Yeah, from Plato to NATO, from Bobbins to Robbins.
Yeah, so more of them next week.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is mine, poured out on paper.
John's gig diary. Please bear in mind I had recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. Okay, today's diary features entries from the 12th, 15th and 16th of May, and there is a revelation, Elis.
Okay. This is your book of revelations.
Yeah, and this is absolutely word for word what it says in my diary. 12th of May 2005. Handed in my notice at Borders. I gave it to Neil in his office and he told me not to get emotional. I'm excited by the prospect of getting involved in stuff I really care about. I may even temp for the council. 15th of May. Was in an odd mood last night. One of those ones where it's best just to go to sleep. I played snooker for ages. God, it's hard. Did the Yellow Kangaroo tonight. It was an excellent crowd, brackets, after 2 drunk stags had left. My new routine had high points and low points. They were a friendly audience, but I think they were a bit well-to-do for my bumhole segue. 5 minutes talking about bums was too long. My stabbing routine went down very well, though, and they liked the Jaffa Cake bit with the mopping of the brow.
Oh, I remember the stabbing routine.
Met a new comic called Elis, who was bloody good.
Oh, that's the first compliment you've ever paid me.
A little too good for, and then crossed out, my liking.
Oh, my goodness.
So it now reads, a little too good for someone who's only done 3 gigs. Very much like Rob Brydon, bloody funny. And those 2 bloodies replace a stronger word. Can't wait for being at Borders to end. When the shifts stop, it feels like a mighty load will be off my mind. 16th of May. Had a boring day, but completed all my tasks. I really want to kick the smoking habit. I'm tired of the constant guilt/pleasure stress going on in my head. Had dinner with Robin, which was nice, but the chat about death and futility depressed me. I'm not really sure what you can achieve in life, except having children who will one day wonder the same things, and so on, until the sun explodes. So Elis,
John.
We've got a confirmed Elis and John meeting each other birthday. It's the 15th of May.
Wow. I thought it was slightly sooner than
No.
that, actually. But I hadn't done many. It was definitely my 3rd or something gig, which I assumed had come quicker, because my first gig, I think, was end of Jan or start of Feb.
Well, I think
2005.
what happened is that I assumed, so I know the day I did my first gig, I'd assumed that I did 1 gig a week since then, but that's not the case.
No.
So I'd probably done maybe 15 gigs by this point, and you'd done, well, claimed to have done 3.
Yeah, I think we've discussed this on the show before. Very odd rumour around the Cardiff circuit at the time that I was lying about how many gigs I'd done claim that I was more of a sort of genius than I was.
That I had initially written a little too good for my liking. Why on earth would anyone just starting a stand-up not like good stand-up?
God, I was so intimidated by you at the start. Because you wore that jacket that made you look like a pop star, which was actually covered in sweat.
Yeah, it had real horrible tide marks under the armpits.
You got sweat tide marks,
Yeah.
and yet still you look like a pop star.
I didn't look like a pop
star in the making. Yeah, you look like you were in the Strokes, John.
Looked like a twerp.
Oh.
So there you go. Day 1.
May 12th?
May 15th,
May
2005.
15th, 2005.
When
So I've known
I
13
was when I
years.
met a bloody funny Rob Brydon-esque comedian called
Yeah,
Elis James.
and sadly never managed to fulfill all that potential.
Absolutely not.
Radio X.
Elis James and John Robbins. Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is my report out on paper.
John's Gig Diary. Please bear in mind I had recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up.
Listeners, if you're new to this feature, John is one of the best stand-up comedians Thornbury has ever produced.
Literally one of.
One off. Russell Howard's from Thornbury
No.
Way, isn't he? All right, well, nearish. James Dowdeswell?
Yep.
Joel Dommett?
Yep.
So you're definite top 3.
I'm top 5 comedians to have come from a small market town.
Top 5. Now, John started, that's how we met actually, on the Bristol and Cardiff comedy scene in early 2005. And John kept a very, very intense diary from this period. And this, John reading out from this diary, is probably my favourite feature in history.
So, the 3 entries from this week is a real roller coaster, Ellis. I discuss...
No way.
I discuss my love life. I discuss the British city. And I also...
General.
Yeah, and I also discuss my dreams and successes in stand-up.
Okay.
17th of May. Had a lot of mood swings today. Went to a writers' meeting and read through some scripts. That girl was there again. I think I'm beginning to quite like her, but she seems elusive and maybe a bit northern.
Intern Trav, loving that. From an Oldham-born intern Trav. It's not a pejorative, though, is it? You don't mean it as a bad thing? Well, we'll
don't know
see.
what I meant there.
Don't know what you meant.
But she's very pretty and has a nice smile. Next week, I'm actually going to try and chat to her. Maybe see if she wants to go for a drink. I hate feeling so timid in these situations. It's the last thing most people would probably describe me as. I didn't stay for the comedy after, as I saw another pretty girl on the other side of the bar and wanted to shoot myself in the face. I don't know anyone else who sees a beautiful girl and immediately wants to die.
No. Very, very rarely are people driven to suicide by beauty. It's like a kind of thing a poet would do about 1,000 years ago.
20th of May. The British city has become grotesque. At night, it has become a hideous thing. There's nothing of poetry or romance left in it.
Shut up.
I would like to go to Paris or New York to see if they're the same. I sincerely hope they're not. I hold little hope for women and I. I need my own space, but also yearn for someone to share my life with. Falling in love forever would be great, but I'm not sure it really happens. I seem to fall in love every day, but then...
But you don't. No one does, unless they're medically thick.
But then they leave, breezing in and out.
Yeah.
I also want to get really good at cue sports.
What, snooker and pool?
Yes.
And billiards?
Played snooker with Dave today and got the highest break so far, brackets 19. We're both getting better. I might buy a book on pool. Came home and watched Animal Crackers.
Yeah.
22nd of May. Gig at the Hatchet tonight was the best I've yet performed. Mark and Gaz both said so.
Oliver?
Yeah.
And Gaz Mackin?
Yeah. So there were only 8 in the room, but I made it sound like 40.
I used to die at the Hatchet. They hated me there.
And then underlined, at least.
At least 40.
There was a real buzz. The piano Stevie Wonder gag is excellent if done well, and Mark says I need to play more gigs elsewhere. I think he realises I'm better than just the Hatchet and the Yellow Kangaroo. Mirth control, question mark?
Oh, to put that into a bit of perspective, the Yellow Kangaroo was a very rough pub in Cardiff, in the sort of Roath Splot area, and which is where John and I met. And Mirth Control are a company that put on probably 100 plus gigs, and they give a lot of work to new acts.
I need to get on Shortle too.
Yeah.
Nick, who writes on Fack You, said the piano joke would get a round of applause in a bigger room.
Do you reckon?
Yes.
Well,
that's FAQU, which was an early TV show.
Oh,
an
where's
early TV, it's a comedy show.
Where's it gone then, this great Stevie Wonder piano joke? Why aren't you still doing it? We did gigs in Cambridge.
I think it was a bit offensive.
Okay, all right. Oh, of course, because you used to play with a fence, didn't you? In your early couple of years, you were provocative.
Sailed close to the wind. I finally feel I have a sense of purpose and a calling, and I'm going to do all I can to fulfill it, starting by getting regular hours of work and stopping smoking. By the end of the year, I want to have 1. Played 3 other venues and 1 in London. 2. Have compared a gig. 3. Have been paid in some form for doing a stand-up set. To-do list. Check Chortle. Google Mirth Control. And So You Think You're Funny.
Yes. So You Think You're Funny is a new act competition.
Yes, where all of the best acts go out in the semi-finals.
Yes, because cool dudes get it wrong.
Cool dudes get it wrong.
John and I both got knocked out in the semi-final because cool dudes get it wrong. Although, in fairness to Julia, who organises that competition, great bit of advice, remove loose change from your pockets before performing because it can be distracting.
Yes.
I used to go on with almost 40 quid in my pocket.
There you go, guys. Some troubling excerpts from my gig diaries where I lament the grotesquerie of the British city.
Radio X.
There are 2,000 notebooks on these shelves, and each notebook contains about 250 pages.
This is mine, poured out on paper.
John's gig diary. Please bear in mind I'd recently stopped drinking and was clinically fed up. Okay, so there's 2 pretty seismic events in Robbins' life over the 3-day period these diaries cover, Elis. 23rd of May 2005. Great day today. I really made some ground in getting myself a little more established on the comedy scene. Posted on Chortle for local gigs and got 3 proper responses. Shame that it turns out most open spots seem to stop around July as things hot up for Edinburgh. Though I'm playing Ponchos in Cardiff on the 22nd of July, which I need to get a photo done for.
I remember this.
I remember that photo.
Because you're sat on a table wearing stonewashed jeans, smoking a fag.
No, it was hand taken with a digital camera, looking askance with an eyebrow piercing in my living room.
Is this for comedycv.co.uk?
No, it was for the gig. They wanted to put a poster up. My face on the poster, mate.
You had an eyebrow piercing?
Yeah, big time.
Wow.
What?
Big time.
I don't remember this.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were a rebel, John.
I was and am. 24th of May. Went to the comedy meeting and they really liked my sketches a lot.
What meeting?
It was like a sitcom writing meeting in a pub in Bristol.
Okay.
Stayed after for the comedy and saw Dan Kitson. Brackets great. Dan Kitson is the best comic I have yet seen. Dan Kitson describing the backup vocalists in hip-hop bands as essentially being the men who say things to the main guy like, quote, "We're behind you full sway," and "It's about time somebody said that. Tore laughter from my soul."
Have you told Dan this?
No. I'm going to make sure I keep an eye out for other Dan Kitson shows. I don't know why I was calling him that.
You need to text him that. Nah. That is funny. That he's capable? He was capable of tearing laughter from your soul.
I'll text him. Hi, Dan Kitson. Okay, 25th of May, 2005.
Yeah.
Remember that date?
No.
Just saw what may have been the greatest moment in the history of football. Liverpool won the Champions League from 3-0 down at half-time.
A miracle in Istanbul.
Yes.
Rob and I chatted about how destiny in sport doesn't exist. As an England fan, the devastation almost makes it not worthwhile. And then this. At half-time, they seemed to not have really turned up, or the poor squad selection and bad formation was working against their hunger for it. 1 goal at 51 seconds seemed to kill them. Then 3 goals, one from a penalty in 5 minutes. The wait through extra time was unbearable, then penalties. Dudek had fumbled a lot in the game but made an incredible save at the end of extra time and then put off one penalty taker and saved 2 with Bruce Grobbelaar-style bendy knees. And then I realised what I'd just seen. At the very least, it was a game that had everything. At most, it seemed the realisation of destiny. I should have been a sports
I was going to
journalist.
say.
Got 3 gigs whilst on my way home from work. I need to get a wall-mounted chart calendar. There you go. Live analysis of the 2005 Champions League final.
Why are you not on TalkSport?
I know.
That kind of analysis.
I know.
Good grief, Patrick Barclay.
It sounded a bit like a sort of a kid writing about what they'd done in their summer.
Yeah, a friend of mine, he's now actually a football journalist, but I remember him telling me that when he was a kid, he used to write match reports, and he was all Rush passed to Saunders, who then held it on for a bit and then passed back to Rush. But after 30 seconds, you can't keep up when you're 7 or 8, and nice to see that you continued in that style.
Thanks, man.
Well, that was a slightly more upbeat gig diary than we usually get from you.
Got 5 gigs, saw Dan Kitson.
Yeah, who tore laughter from your soul rather than just made you laugh.
Yeah.